welcome to WSQ number 30. Today we start talking about the plant kingdom. 3 quick objectives today for this WSQ. We want to figure out what are the characteristics that all plants share, what makes plants plants, what do plants need to live successfully on land, because they have some specific requirements, and how do non-vascular plants and vascular plants differ. That's basically what we're going to hit as we address this particular content today. So let's jump right into it. First of all, it's important to define what a plant is. And plants, by definition, are organisms that are, first of all, autotrophs, a word we've used often. It just means an organism that produces its own food. And we know they're autotrophic in that they are able to capture the sun's energy, right? Remember, they use the process of photosynthesis to make their own energy. And they do that by capturing the sun's light inside of these organelles called chloroplasts. Inside those chloroplasts, remember, are the little chlorophyll, which actually take in that energy. So they are autotrophic. Secondly, they're multicellular. Okay, multicellular meaning that they have cells that are built into tissues, that are grouped up into organs, that are grouped into organ systems. They're also eukaryotes. Okay, this word again, if you haven't figured this one out yet, guys, you need to commit this to memory. Eukaryotes are cells that have a cell wall and a nucleus. Okay, so they have a nucleus to hold their genetic material. So inside that nucleus, okay, right here, they have what would be called DNA, right? And those are the blueprints which determine the cell. You'll notice if we were to put a cell, a plant cell up against an animal cell, the big structural differences are going to be the cell wall, right? That's one big difference. And they also have vacuoles. That's another big difference, and chloroplasts. Those 3 things are very unique from animals. So that's what a plant is. Let's talk about the structure of the plants. The plant body is basically organized into 4 different groups. You have, well, 5. If you start with the organism, right? The organism would be the plant itself. And then you have organ systems, organs, tissues, and cells. In plants, there's really 2 organ systems. The first organ system is the shoot system, okay, and that's the stems and the leaves that make up the plant, what we see above ground, okay. And in the shoot system, that's where, in the leaves, that's where they're going to actually be able to get sunlight and absorb that in and convert that into energy. The purpose of the stems is really to bring the leaves up closer to the sun, to give them availability to the sun. So that's the first system. The second system is called the root system, and that's made of the roots. The roots' job is to take in water and nutrients that are in the soil. So as the leaves bring in carbon dioxide and expel oxygen and get sunlight, the roots are the ones that bring in the water and the other minerals and nutrients that the plant needs. So that's the organ system level. At the organ level, what we get is, let's take, for example, the leaf. So the leaf is a part of the shoot system. The leaf is an organ. Okay, all leaves are organs. There's 3 types of organs: leaves, stems, and roots. And the leaf's job, it's an organ that's made up of many different tissues that work together to do one thing. The leaf's purpose is to carry out photosynthesis. Okay, I wanted to show you as well over here in this diagram that you can see the distinction between the different organ types, and even can see that leaves and stem and roots, that they have a different design, that the actual design or cross-section of each of these particular structures has a different purpose. Okay, as you can see down in the root, which is major purpose is to move materials. They have mostly xylem and phloem, which we'll talk about later. In the stem, still much xylem and phloem, okay, with some dermal cells. But the leaf, completely different, right? Small xylem and phloem and much more spread out and structured for the chloroplast to work. So you have organ systems, you have organs, then you have tissues. Well, let's look at the leaf. The leaf actually has multitude of different tissues inside the leaf. You can break the leaf down into a variety of groups of different structures. You can see the same thing in a stem or in the roots. Okay, some tissues are designed to protect the leaf. Some tissues are designed to gather in the sunlight for photosynthesis. Some carry food and water. Each of those tissues have a different function, and that different function helps the plant thrive. Then you have cells. At the cellular level, each of these tissues, right, are made up of specific cells. Okay, maybe it's chloroplasts inside the cells that are designed in that particular type of cell to take in the sun's energy, or maybe it's the cells that make up the outer dermal level that excrete the waxy coating, the cuticle that protects the leaf. They have a very specific purpose, and ultimately, even inside the cell, there are structures like the cytoplasmic organelles, the cell wall, the nucleus, that has a task and a job. The cool thing about the plant is we can see in the plant, as we can in the human body, as we will later, that there is a differentiation in structure, and it's very similar to the church in that in the church we have cells, tissues, organs, organ systems. There's division of labor, and really God designs it in such a way so that no one person is responsible for carrying out all tasks. We all have specialities. We are all built up together to help the full organism, or the Church of Jesus Christ, function. And so pretty cool system. So remember, the body of a plant is organ systems, organs, tissues, and cells, and you should be able to define each of those. Now, another topic of interest is, what does the plant actually need to live? Plants are unique. For the most part, they don't move. At least they may move side to side and stretch out and grow in that way, but plants don't unroot themselves and take a little journey, unless you've seen Lord of the Rings. So there are some things that they need. 5 things really important. 1, they need to obtain water and other nutrients. They're very dependent upon water, and they have to get it first. So they have specialized tissues like roots that actually bring water and nutrients from the soil. On the roots, we're going to learn about the root hairs, smaller little structures that allow them to extract even more water from the soil. Secondly, they need to retain water. They have this really cool structure known as the cuticle. And a cuticle, if you've ever seen a leaf, you can take a leaf, pull it off of a plant, and you pour water on it, and it will just run right off. The reason why is the leaf will extract what's called a cuticle. It's a waxy substance that comes out of the top dermis of the leaf that actually waterproofs the leaf. So it helps the leaf not absorb all of that water, which could be a problem. So that helps them not only keep water out, but it keeps water in. They need transport materials, number 3. So they have tissues that are vascular, like xylem and phloem. Their whole job is to bring water up and sugar and nutrients and things down to the plant. 4, they need support. Plants have to stand up so that their leaves can be exposed to the sun, and so they have these rigid cell walls which are designed to support them, and vascular tissues that are very strong to give them strength and support. And so that's why a lot of times plants can become very rigid and brittle. 5, they need to reproduce, and they reproduce both in sexual forms and asexual forms. So we'll learn about those as we continue on. But those are the 5 things that plants have to live. They've got to obtain water and nutrients. They have to retain that water. They have to transport materials within themselves. They have to be supported, and they have to reproduce. Now, we can divide plants up generally into 2 groups. Okay, and I made this little chart for you, which I think is great. The first group is what we will call vascular plants. Okay. And the second group we will call non-vascular plants. You'll notice that there are no subdivisions off of the non-vascular plants. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. The vascular plants, what we're talking about here, are plants that have a true vascular tissue. Okay, so these actually have true xylem and true phloem. 2 structures that you're going to want to learn a lot about. Non-vascular plants, they lack vascular tissue. They don't have true vascular tissue. Now, some of the things you'll see in non-vascular plants is they're going to be very low to the ground, and they're going to grow close to water sources. Okay, because remember, plants need to obtain water, and since they don't have true vascular tissues, they typically don't, you're not going to see these plants in the desert. You're not going to see these plants in places where there's dry climates. They're going to be close to water sources. Vascular plants can further be broken down into three groups, what are called seedless vascular, gymnosperms, and angiosperms. Seedless vascular plants are plants that reproduce by making spores. That would be, for example, those are ferns. Okay, ferns reproduce by making spores. Gymnosperms are plants that reproduce by seeds, but they don't have flowers and they don't produce fruits. This would be like conifers. Conifers are trees like redwoods and pine trees where they don't actually produce flowers, okay? And their seeds are naked. They're not covered by a fruit. And the fruit is the flesh that protects the seed. The last group are angiosperms. Angiosperms reproduce by seeds. They do have flowers and fruits. This is the major classification, and most plants fit into this. And these would be plants like roses and fruit trees and things like that. Angiosperms can also be broken down into two smaller classes, okay, dicots and monocots, and we'll talk about these words. We'll talk about these more, really just referring to the structure of the particular plant. Dicots includes fruit trees and daisies and roses and geraniums, and monocots includes corns and lilies and grasses. So that's just a general overview. You should know vascular plants have true vascular tissue. Non-vascular plants lack true vascular tissue, and we'll be getting into great detail on each of those. That is WSQ number 30. So now that you've watched it, I would encourage you guys, don't forget to write down all of your vocab words to get prepared for your vocab quiz. Also want to just encourage you guys to continue to put in the time, answer the questions thoroughly, and summarize carefully. And you guys should do really well as we just continue to learn. So take care. Bye.